Hello everyone, LEGO Marvel has revealed 6 new upcoming sets for the year 2026 that should be releasing in January. Most of these sets focus on Spider-Man, but there are a couple different ones in there. Then there's some really exciting sets here like the first Spider-Man 3 set ever, and then even a new version of the Daily Bugle. Stay tuned to see all the new sets. The first one I'll talk about is the 76334 Epic Battle Spider-Man vs. Sandman. It'll have 201 pieces and retail for $25. The minifigures will feature Spider-Man, Sandman, and Venom. As I alluded to in the beginning, this is the Spider-Man 3 set, the first one LEGO has ever released, which is actually extremely surprising. Unfortunately, it's very small, but it does come with the 3 main minifigures of that film, which is neat, and I like this little display piece it has set up. I wish our first set for this film would have been bigger, but I can't deny I do like what they did here. This $25 set's at a nice fun little price range. Maybe $20 would have fit better, but still, having cheaper sets as an option is always good, especially small display pieces like this. It acts as a good gateway to get people into LEGO, and nonetheless, even for kids who maybe don't want to display it and want to play with it, it's still a good option for that. You're not going to get much out of the build, but there is still plenty of minifigures, and you can use Sandman's body still as somewhat of a play set, along with all the rubble and debris you could use. Still though, this is definitely primarily a display set for older fans, and as such I think it does quite a good job. Again, as I mentioned, the smaller price point is a big factor of the set and why I think it's actually really good. It does a lot with the small space that it's given, and works very nicely as a small desktop display piece, giving you a lot of action in a small space, as well as 3 great minifigures. I wouldn't call them outstanding, their details are somewhat lacking, but as far as their appearances from the film, they get those down pretty good. And I love how they all come with accessories that work with their powers. Quite a solid set at a decent price range. Again, I would have maybe favored $20 more, but I don't think $25 is the end of the world. The next set after that is another smaller Spider-Man set, the 76335 Spider-Man vs. Ghost Rider Motorcycle. This set will have 72 pieces and retail for $10. Minifigures will include Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, and then the build is Ghost Rider's bike. Another small set that really nailed it. The idea for this set is just perfect. A cheap way to get Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, and then the build too is even very impactful as it's Ghost Rider's bike. It's not just some throwaway build like we sometimes see in these smaller sets. This vehicle actually makes sense and is important to this character. Now this bike definitely fits its price point. It's not the best bike we've ever seen, but I do think those flames take any attention away from the bad parts of the build and help focus your eye on the better parts. And nonetheless, at $10, you can't give them too much hate. It's a very nice and complete set. Moving on to one of the more important parts of the set are the 2 minifigures. Both look pretty good. This Spider-Man figure I needed to point out specifically because he has arm printing. And in such a cheap set, that is a really good pickup. The legs are plain, which is kind of weird considering what they did for the arms. However, if you had more detailed legs, you could always swap those out. For Ghost Rider, the figure's really nice, except for the arms and legs. Those are surprisingly plain. I don't think it hurts this minifigure really though, because all he wears is all black, so it's not the end of the world, but I would have liked some leg printing. With where we are in LEGO today, I just think no leg printing, except for very specific scenarios, looks weird. In full swing though, I love this $10 set. Moving on, 76336 Spider-Man car vs. Venomized Wolverine. Another small Spider-Man set. This one has 134 pieces, and it'll retail for $20. A very similar set design to the last one, where 2 minifigures and a vehicle are combined into one set. However, I think they dropped the ball with this one. I get they probably didn't want 2 small sets out at the same time that included bikes, but this vehicle really should have been a motorcycle for Wolverine. I mean, that's just iconic and he's known for that. Not to mention a Venomized bike would have been really cool as well. On top of a Venomized Wolverine that already looks super cool. That said, I'm sure kids are going to have a blast with this little car, but older fans aren't going to find much in it. It's a serviceable build, but not one I care about too much. As an adult fan, if you're going to buy this set, it's definitely for the minifigures. That said though, this Spider-Man figure is the exact same one we just saw in the $10 set. So really that leaves one reason to buy this set for older fans, and that's the Wolverine minifigure. $20 for one minifigure doesn't seem that great to me, and that leaves this set kind of in a weird place where I just don't think it's that great. and I don't think it works that great, especially alongside that other one that's a lot cheaper and has better minifigures and build. Next, a big one, the 76342 Spider-Man vs. Mysterio, the Daily Bugle. Finally, a cheaper Daily Bugle for people who don't quite want to buy that $400 set. This set will have 781 pieces for $100, much more reasonable for the average fan. As far as minifigures go, there's quite a nice array. You have Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Ghost Spider, J. Jonah Jameson, Venomized Captain America, Mysterio, Rhino. The minifigure lineup's not anything you wouldn't expect. Pretty much all standard except for the Venomized Captain America. Kind of a weird one. LEGO has this obsession with Venomizing characters, but I'm not going to complain. They look cool. It's so weird sometimes when they're thrown in all these sets. For the most part, these minifigures are pretty standard. Still good though nonetheless to get. Especially that Mysterio figure. That figure is a standout. Onto this build though, from the outside it's exactly what you want. It's the Daily Bugle and it looks really good. Obviously it's much smaller than the bigger version, but a very nice scale, and it works perfectly for this $100 set. Lots of places for Spider-Man to latch onto, villains to fly around, plenty of interactive elements, and a good looking piece of your LEGO city. Flipping around the backside, there isn't too much. It's pretty much just the office, which is mostly dead besides J. Jonah Jameson. There isn't a Peter Parker figure included, which is kind of off-putting. That definitely should have been done for this set. But nonetheless, it's still a Daily Bugle set and looks great, and is a really nice compact version of that huge set they released a few years ago. The next set they revealed is the 76343 Hulkbuster vs. the Hulk. An extremely fun set idea. At 413 pieces, it'll retail for $50, and it'll feature Iron Man Mark 43 and the Hulk. Iron Man is hidden away in that Hulkbuster armor, which is a nice touch. I'm glad they didn't just include the armor. However, speaking about this armor, it's decent. It feels a little messy in some areas, but overall for the scale they were going with, it works out pretty nicely. However, it does feel weird to pay $50 for essentially just the Hulkbuster armor. There's a few other pieces here as some rubble and debris, and then the stand. But besides that, you're basically paying for a $50 Hulkbuster, plus the Hulk Big Fig. So not an ideal pricing, but not a backbreaker either. Similarly to the Spider-Man 3 set, I really enjoy these smaller scale. These smaller diorama pieces are really accessible to people. Plus the free-flowing form of them is just interesting. It works really well with Hulk too and the Hulkbuster armor, as having this mid-air battle with debris flying everywhere. It looks really cool, and even if you're not interested in the diorama itself, you're going to get a great set of Hulkbuster armor and the Hulk himself. A great pairing for a set, if only it was priced a little cheaper. Finally, we've made our way to the last set of the list, and that is the 76344 Iron Man Mark III Collector's Edition. This is the big 18 plus set of the wave. It'll have 1,297 pieces for $130. There'll be one minifigure included, the Iron Man Mark III. A great buildable figure to release. Of course, Iron Man is very popular in this day and age, and I'm sure this set is going to sell great. It's essentially a LEGO action figure, which is really cool. And LEGO nailed the body with this figure. The legs, the arms, the main torso, all looks great. There's a lot of curves and definition, working in favor of the armor. The wrist and hand connection looks a little thin and a little awkward, but it's not too distracting, but it does kind of catch your eye. The helmet was probably the most worrisome part, but they seem to do that pretty well. Some angles look worse than others and some angles look better, but overall I would still say I think it turned out good. And it's a nice build of Iron Man. Much better than that bust they released a little while ago. There's not a whole lot to this minifigure, most of it's just the displayability. There are a couple hidden features around though, like the arc reactor is removable. There's a couple fins on the back you can deploy. But mostly it's a static piece that you can display, which is somewhat disappointing. I do like to see some interactive elements, even in my displayable figures, but nonetheless, a pretty cool build, and a nice way to round out the wave. In total, there was quite a bit of like display-oriented sets, which was really interesting because Marvel has always kind of stayed, and LEGO superheroes in general have stayed more towards the kids side. Cheaper sets, more action-y, not really getting into the 18 plus sets, but there's been a real big shift towards that direction, so I guess it makes sense from that regard. It looks like a fairly average wave that we're used to, lots of Spider-Man and Iron Man, which is pretty much what Marvel likes to do here with LEGO. If I had to pick a standout, I think the best is the Daily Bugle. having that build as a cheaper option is just going to be so good to finally see. The other version was great, but it was just highly inaccessible at that $400 price point. So that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Let me know down in the comments which one you're looking forward to and what you think of this wave as a whole. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.